Good evening, everybody. We are joined by head coach Gary Smith. Coach, your thoughts on today's result?
Well, I made it clear in the pre-game media that this game has been exceptionally difficult. Whenever we've been here over the course of our history as an organisation, and it was no different tonight. I thought it was a very, very evenly matched game, but for 10 minutes in that second period, where New England started brighter, looked more aggressive, and we looked on our heels and just a tad unbalanced in a brief window of time, and they took advantage of that. And that's what good sides do. That's what good players do. For all the efforts and endeavours beyond that, we obviously weren't able to force an equaliser or more. And, unfortunately, on a night where there wasn't an awful lot between the teams, they've come away with all 3 points.
Thank you, Coach. We're going to open the floor for questions. We'll kick it off with Tim Sullivan, then Ben Wright, and Trey Hills.
Hey, Gary, I wanted to ask specifically about the strike that Gustavo hit to provide the winner. What did you see in terms of the way it developed? And then, of course, I know it doesn't make you feel any better about it, but is it less disappointing to lose on a wonder strike, more disappointing to lose on such a nice strike that Joe gets a hand to but can't keep out?
Yeah, I mean, look, as I said, they started far brighter than us in that second half. There are a couple of things that actually layer into this. We've had some difficulties this week. Walker's not trained all week. Maybe one day he's had flu. I felt as though we needed to offer him some support. He told me this morning that he'd be good enough to start, and he's ended up playing 90 minutes, and that's the character of the individual. But, 2 days ago, he was laid up in bed and suffering badly. We've had Alex under concussion protocol, and 2 or 3 players that have been struggling with problems. So I thought it would be best to try and utilise Alex Mule in a wing-back / attacking full-back style role into midfield. And I think the balance of the group looked off in that second period. We got it right in the first half. We didn't start well in the second, and they took advantage of it. And that's, has to be down to me as well. So, look, the goal's a terrific strike. Anything, upper 90 at the near post at that sort of pace from that sort of distance is going to be difficult to stop. But I honestly thought, for the most part, our defending was very, very good. And there was an awful lot to take out of the game from a positive standpoint. We'll all look back on that 10 minutes and realise that it wasn't good enough. And we paid a price for that.
Tim, if you have a follow-up, please go ahead, and then we'll transition on to Ben.
Yeah, there was a penalty shot from Walker kind of late on in the second half there. Did you have an opinion of that live? Have you kind of talked to the people that you seem to talk to immediately after every game that kind of said, okay, this was not something that you should worry about?
I truly haven't had an opportunity to look at it again. I haven't had anyone who was watching in slow motion or otherwise tell me that it was or it wasn't. The explanation from the fourth official was that they looked at it again and they felt as though Walker landed awkwardly. So I have no opinion. If anyone else on this call has one and has seen a better replay of it, I'd be happy to hear it.
Thank you, Tim. Ben, go ahead.
Yeah, Gary, you guys were able to create a decent amount of chances. I think you had 16 shots. Obviously, maybe kind of chasing the game late played into that. But what did you make of kind of some of the interplay you guys had around their box? It felt like you were at least asking questions of their back line.
I honestly thought from the opening interactions in the game, that there was a nice feel about our group, what we could create, how we might create. Understandably, there were moments where New England got on top, and the group, knuckled down and did a terrific job. But I thought Hanny was bright. He had a couple of nice openings. There were some reasonable sights of goal. Jacob got himself into some very nice positions. Ultimately, on this field, and it isn't easy, where and how you strike the ball, the quality of your techniques on a different surface are really under the microscope. And when you're talking about, real fine lines now of, people getting their footing right to strike the ball, getting underneath the ball or trying to, be a little bit more delicate with their work, it can be very, very difficult. And I did think throughout, of course, they were trying to, safeguard their lead. I thought in the final 15 minutes of the game, but there was plenty of pressure. There were some moments that I thought we might have made a little more of. But in the end, yes, enough efforts at goal. No, not enough on target, obviously. Would have loved to have seen a couple of clearer chances. But when you look back, probably the one moment that, would have had a big impact on the game was the corner where Walker hits the crossbar. It's a big moment. It's a big opportunity. We've seen him score those on numerous occasions. And on this one, unfortunately not. The woodwork keeps us out.
Ben, go ahead.
Yeah, we saw you guys announce the signing of Jan, I believe, yesterday. What did you make of his, I think, 15 minutes from what you've seen from him in training, and what are you expecting him to contribute to midfield this year?
Well, Jan's still working his way towards match fitness and sharpness. He's been in with us working for a week or 10 days. I've known, as all of the staff have, about Jan's career, especially in MLS. And I think he's been a very talented and creative midfield player. His passing, his distribution, his vision, his experience, some of his stats speak for themselves. I felt as though that slightly different quality in our midfield would help us at some point. I wasn't expecting necessarily to see much of Jan tonight, if at all, given that he'd only signed his paperwork yesterday or the day before. But the game looked like it was going to offer opportunity and moments for someone like Jan to try and probe and ask questions and use some of that very high caliber technical quality. I thought his distribution was good. He kept it simple. He broke lines on numerous occasions. I think his pass completion rate was top drawer. It's 15 minutes, but ongoing, I do honestly think he gives us a slightly different dimension to that midfield when needed.
We'll transition onto Dre Hills.
Gary, you're now a few games in without Randall. I'm curious in the way you saw this game, both preparing for it and as it played out. I'm curious from your eyes, what you think that you missed from him and how, if he played, how that could have affected the way you guys, especially the goal, after the goal, how that you guys would have been able to come back.
Yeah, it's difficult, obviously, when somebody's absent to say that opportunity, this situation would have been, prime for him. What we miss is a very talented player, a very good technician, somebody who manages the ball well, somebody who's got good feeling for the ball and good understanding and appreciation for others. So, of course, we're missing. We miss the competition. We miss the added depth to the group. And, honestly, it'll be great when he's back fit and healthy, and there's other choices to be made in those attacking areas, because I do believe we've got some very good attacking dimensions to the group now. We're missing something different, which is Randall. He can find those little half pockets. He does get into positions where he asks defenders questions, and obviously connects well with others. Capable of scoring from distance, on a night like tonight, where the back line of New England got deeper and deeper. Maybe an opportunity there for him, but unfortunately not to be, of course.
Trey, go ahead with your follow-up.
Yeah, you slightly touched on it in terms of him being back to 100%. With that hamstring, do you expect him to get back at least this upcoming week?
I think this weekend's going to be a push. He's out on the field, but there's some caution to be had now in the injury that he's had. While slightly different areas of his hamstring, it is the same hamstring. And we want to be careful that, we're getting all of the right recovery work in place so that when he does come back, we don't fall foul of the same situation again.
We are going to transition now to Claudia Villalobos. Claudia?
Gary, it seemed tonight as about Hanny had to play in the areas of the field that he doesn't have to do it pretty often. Was that by design, or was just the way the game unfolded?
I think we found early on it difficult to create purposeful situations and control moments going forward. What it meant was a lot of the work for Hanny was, chasing down the side of defenders, putting himself in the positions where, on a surface that he's not used to, it made it far more difficult with his footing to maybe pivot and turn and just dictate the game a little bit more in that fashion. So I think what he did, understandably, was start to just try and overload areas in that first period. He dropped into midfield a little bit deeper, just to ask some questions and to offer us the opportunity maybe to manage the moment a little bit better. And I think it helped. The problem for us really was that second period, the first 10 minutes. As I've said, we didn't start well. We couldn't find any traction with the ball. They were on the front foot. We weren't in a particularly good place to deal with that pressure. And in the end, they found a moment. It wasn't sustained pressure, but it was enough. Too many, cheap giveaways, too many squandered opportunities, missed challenges. There were a lot of things that go into losing the fight in the early stages of any half of the game. And they were better than us in that period. And it was a lot of their regain work and their pressure that put them into good positions. And in the end, one of those good positions counted. So, look, I've been very, very pleased with an awful lot of our opening 4 games. We'll look back on that 10 minutes and obviously rue some of the things that went on. But all in all, there are a lot more positives to come out of our play than there are negatives. Today, it hasn't earned us any points. And everyone on this call knows full well that when we don't earn points, we are all bitterly disappointed. We're consoling ourselves with some of the things that went on outside of that because it's our job to earn points. But when I evaluate this, I'm sure when I look back at the game, there are going to be a lot of good things come out of this. Certainly things we can take forward and continue to improve and take us in a positive direction.
Claudia, do you have any follow-ups? You're muted.
Yeah, Gary. Perhaps one of the issues you might have seen in the game, we're pretty much getting used to Shaq more going back and forth on that side of the field, rarely in a very good shape. It seems like tonight, he had more trouble. He had to stay back a lot longer. What is your take about that?
Well, as I explained, Shaq's role to begin with was to offer Walker some more support on this right-hand side of the field. I felt, certainly in preparation and watching this New England team, Barrero can be a very big threat. He's very maverick in his movement and his style and where he picks up positions. And I thought it would be a very, very good matchup. And I thought Shaq's defending was magnificent. Neutralised the young man out there to a very, very large degree. Now, of course, what that did was it prevented him from going forward too much and joining in too much. That wasn't Shaq's decision. That was mine. That was by design, which is why I said that in that second period, we just looked a little bit lopsided with their midfield players, Buck in particular, joining the front line, drawing Daniel Lovitz a little bit narrower, and it was offering Brandon Bye too much room to deliver in those early stages. It created uncertainty, it created pressure, and it created some difficulty for us. And I and the group didn't work it out well enough. It wasn't executed well enough. And in the end, some of those regains in that pressure resulted in the opportunity for Bo. It doesn't happen very often, but it did tonight and it's cost us a game.
Thank you, Coach. We'll be joined next by Jan Gregory.